Welcome students. In this session we will be covering a program under Bachelor of Science, 3rd year, subject Botany, semester 5, course code BOC 105, course title Classical Taxonomy and Phylogeny. Title of the unit, Unit 3, Origin and Evolution of Angiosperms, module name, Evolution of Flower. Myself, Dr. Nisha Kevat, Assistant Professor from Department of Botany from Sri Mallika Arjun College. Outline: Introduction to flower, evolution of flower, geological time scale, contribution of fossil record, origin of angiosperm flower, primitive angiosperms and flowers, hypothesis and molecular evidence. Learning outcomes: at the end of this session, student will be able to describe the evolution of angiosperm flower, understand the geological time scale, recall the origin of angiosperm flower, differentiate the primitive angiosperm and advanced flower. They will also be able to recall the contribution of fossil record and explain the hypothesis and molecular evidence. Introduction to flower. It is a reproductive shoot which is assigned for pollination, fertilization and subsequent production of fruits and seed. Classically, we can also call flower as determinate shoot which bears a modified leaves. Evolution of a flower. What exactly we meant when we say a evolution of flower? It is referred as a transition from ancestral, that is a primitive type, to advanced type. It can also be referred as simply evolution of a flower from simple to the highly complex and reduced flower with adnate floral parts. And also evolution of flower is also referred to as a predictable fashion to match the mouth parts of the pollinating birds and the insects. Stratigraphic and geological time scale. In this slide, I have shown the 3 different eras which refers to the age of different plant taxa. For example, in Mesozoic era, which was around 60 million to 200 million years ago, it was referred to as the age of the gymnosperm, whereas in Cenozoic, which is around 60 million years ago, it is referred as the age of angiosperms. Now, coming to the contribution of fossil record. Fossil records place the massive appearance and diversification of angiosperm in the middle to the late Mesozoic era, which means it is a transition from Mesozoic to Cenozoic era. Cenozoic era is a age of angiosperm. In addition, there was a fossilized pollen which was recovered from the Jurassic geological material, and it was also contributed to the understanding of angiosperm. Now, at the same geological period, there was a many modern group of insect that was also being recovered, and by the mid Cretaceous period, a staggering number of diverse flowering plants has crowded the fossil record, and altogether this fossil record has contributed very significantly in understanding the evolution of angiosperm flower. Now, coming to the angiosperm flower, it is said that Benititales, Catoniales, Siscanovskiales, Durfoplastochiales, these are the groups of the fossil angiosperms which are also referred as the proangiosperms because they have the characters of the gymnosperms as well as the angiosperms, and they might be the ancestral or a basal angiosperm which might be leading us to the evolution of flower. Coming to the Amborella trichopoda, is it a primitive angiosperm? If we see the family tree of the angiosperm, we understand that Amborella trichopoda forms the basal angiosperm. It is related to all the existing flowering plants and belongs to the oldest confirmed branch of the angiosperm family tree. Few other angiosperm groups known as a basal angiosperms are also referred as a primitive angiosperm because they share a morphological traits with both monocots as well as the eudiocots, which is referred as a modern angiosperms. Here is an image of the Amborella trichopoda. Now, according to the various renowned taxonomists, primitive flowers holds a various different definition. For example, Takhtajan 1969 and Cronquist 1980, according to them, a flower is a primitive if it is a bisexual, solitary, moderately sliced, axillary or terminal in position, will have a leaf-like stamens or have a condoblicate carpel or perianth of modified bract, monosulcate pollen. So, if any flower which has these characters will be referred as a primitive. Whereas, according to the Angler and Prentill 1925 and Wettstein 1935, Amentiferous, which is a catkin bearing flower, are primitive flowers because the flowers will be naked, unisexual and wind pollinated. Whereas, Ditcher 1979, according to him, primitive diclinous, that is bisexual, and monoclinous, that is unisexual flowers have followed a course of parallel evolution, as both these coexisted in the fossil history of Angiosperm. Now, based on the taxonomical knowledge, we can say that flower can be a primitive or derived if it has this character which is placed on the left hand side. Those are primitive characters, whereas on the right hand side column those are the derived characters. Origin of flower holds a divergent hypothesis, means it has a various different hypotheses which are proposed by the various group of taxonomies. For example, the one hypothesis is known as the woody magnolid hypothesis. This hypothesis is basically based upon the cladistic analysis. It is given by the Doyle and Donogh, which favors that early angiosperm had a morphology which is similar to living woody members of the magnoliales. In that, the carpels are imperfectly fused and make a physical intermediate between a folded leaf and a fused pistil. Now, this hypothesis is greatly supported by the molecular study and it is currently very much favored by the present systematic botanist. Coming to the second hypothesis, that is a paleoherb hypothesis. According to this hypothesis, this favors a herbaceous origin of the angiosperm in contrast to the magnolid woody hypothesis. Basal angiosperms were tropical paleoherbs with uncomplicated flowers and they were the mix of the monocot as well as the dicot features. Now, what basal angiosperm fossil record has to say? Fossil discovery of few basal angiosperm families such as Archifructaceous throws a new light on the origin of angiosperm flower. The near basal phylogenetic position of the nymphaeals, which also includes the well known fossil Archifructus, certainly indicates that the aquatic habit arose early, but unfortunately we do not know the ancestor of the Archifructus. So, is it Archifructus should be considered as the ancestor? Is it Earth's first flowering plant? Maybe not, because this is 125 million years old fossil and it is the oldest flowering plant fossil which has been found so far. This exciting discovery includes all the parts of the plants and represents an entirely new, but unfortunately it is an extinct family. It may indicate that flowering plants may have originated in shallow water. Archifructus, does it really throw a new light on the origin of angiosperm? Certainly, angiosperm may not have evolved from nowhere. If we talk about the current data, that is only dominant group in a Mesozoic era. Mesozoic is basically the era of a gymnosperm, wherein the fern-like arborescent shrubby gymnosperm, that is Catoniales, Ciscovascales, Durfoplastocales, Glossopterids, Pentoxylon, Benetitales and Chitonian, which were terrestrials. Therefore, any angiosperm should have evolved from out of any of this group because they are more closer in the geological time scale and they have they are the gymnosperms and the basal angiosperms, and the modern angiosperms must have developed from this. Molecular evidences. So far we have been talking about the fossil records and morphological data, but molecular evidences combine the morphological data as well as the molecular data, and they revealed a revised anthophyte clade which consists of the fossils, Glossopterids, Pentoxylon, Benetitales and Chitonia, and refer them as a sister angiosperm. According to these, anthophytes are those which has the flower as a reproductive structure. Based on the earlier opinion, Nettles were included, but now according to the new data, Nettles is not included, only this basal angiosperm are being included. Amborella, though it is a rare monophyletic shrub genus endemic to New Caledonia, and the nymphales together form the first branching angiosperm lineage. So, DNA analysis showed that Amborella trichopoda belongs to a sister group of the earliest flowering plants, which means that order Amborales, nymphales and it is said that the order Amborales, nymphales and astrobiales diverge as a separate lineages from the remaining angiosperm clade at a very early state in a flowering plant evolution, and they significantly closely related to the evolution of flower. So, what are the factors that actually led to the derivation or evolution of angiosperm flower? We all know that the earth atmosphere was never stable. So, tectonic events and environmental instability was one of the factor which was responsible for evolution of flower. Secondly, severe climate change such as a drought might have also contributed. Now, shift from the wind pollination to the insect pollination is also attributed to the seasonal drought. Anthophilous insects are those insects which feeds upon the flower, might have also played a very decisive role in the transformation of Gymnosperm strobilus into the angiosperm flower. So, these are the factors which might have contributed to the evolution of flower. These are the references. Thank you.